change the direction of your life. The teachings of Jesus are not just ancient messages recorded in history. They are still alive, relevant, and deeply needed today. In the midst of so many voices, opinions, and uncertain paths, his words remain a reliable source of truth, bringing clarity to the mind and peace to the heart. Perhaps you are facing doubts, challenges, or even a kind of emptiness that is hard to explain. And often, all we need is a simple but true direction. That is exactly what the teachings of Jesus offer, a path of transformation, hope, and purpose. In this video, you will reflect on 10 teachings that can impact the way you think, act, and live every day. If this message speaks to your heart, you are warmly invited to like the video and subscribe to the channel, so you can continue receiving content that encourages and strengthens your spiritual life. Let's begin. First teaching, love God above all things. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. Matthew 22:37. Jesus reveals that the greatest commandment is not about rituals, but about a deep relationship with God. Loving God with all your heart means placing Him above everything else, above your desires, fears, and life's priorities. It is not a superficial or conditional love, but a complete devotion that involves your thoughts, emotions, and decisions. This teaching invites us to reflect. Does God truly come first in our lives? Often we become distracted by worries, goals, and problems and end up putting God second. But when He is at the center, everything finds its proper balance. Loving God transforms the way we live. Our choices begin to reflect that love, and our lives gain true purpose. It is in this sincere relationship that we find direction, peace, and lasting meaning. Second teaching, love your neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself. Matthew 22:39. Jesus shows that loving others is inseparable from loving God. It is not just about feelings, but about practical actions, treating people with respect, compassion, and empathy, even when it is difficult. This teaching challenges the natural selfishness of the human heart. Many times we think of ourselves first, but Jesus calls us to look at others with the same care we have for ourselves. Loving your neighbor also means forgiving, helping, and understanding. It is choosing to act with kindness, even when we do not receive the same in return. When we put this into practice, we become instruments of God in people's lives. Small actions can transform great situations. This teaching reveals that faith is not only something internal, it is expressed through the way we treat those around us. Third teaching, always forgive. I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. Matthew 18:21-22. Forgiveness is one of the most challenging teachings of Jesus. He places no limits on forgiving, showing that forgiveness must be continuous. Holding on to resentment imprisons the heart. A lack of forgiveness keeps us bound to the past and prevents us from living in peace. Jesus teaches that forgiving is not forgetting, but choosing not to carry the weight of pain. Forgiving does not mean agreeing with the wrong, but releasing the heart from emotional captivity. It is an act of freedom. When we forgive, we make room for inner healing. God works in our hearts and gives us strength to move forward. This teaching reminds us that we also need God's forgiveness. Just as we have been forgiven, we must learn to forgive others. Fourth teaching, trust in God. Therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Matthew 6:25. This teaching calls us to let go of anxiety and trust in God's care. Jesus reminds us that life goes beyond daily concerns and that God knows every need, even before we ask. Often, anxiety arises when we try to control everything around us, but this verse invites us to rest in divine provision. Trusting God does not mean ignoring responsibilities, but living without the constant weight of worry. It is recognizing that there is a God who sustains, cares for, and directs every detail. When we place our trust in Him, we find peace even in the midst of uncertainty. This teaching encourages us to live with more faith and less fear, knowing that God is in control and never abandons those who trust in Him. Fifth teaching: seek first the kingdom of God. But seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Matthew 6:33. This teaching reveals the priority that should guide the life of anyone who desires to walk with God. Jesus invites us to place the kingdom of God above everything else, above worries, material desires, and even daily anxieties. To seek the kingdom means to live according to God's will, aligning our thoughts, attitudes, and decisions with His principles. Often, human nature drives us to chase security, money, or recognition, but this verse shows a different path. When God takes first place, He takes care of everything else. This does not mean the absence of challenges, but the assurance of provision and direction. When we prioritize God, we find peace, purpose, and balance. This teaching calls us to trust more and depend less on circumstances, knowing that everything we truly need will be provided at the right time. Sixth teaching: be humble. And whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. Matthew 23:12. This teaching reveals that, in the kingdom of God, true greatness is not found in self-exaltation, but in humility. While the world values status and recognition, Jesus teaches us to live with a simple heart, free from pride and willing to serve. To be humble is to recognize our dependence on God and to act with respect and sensitivity toward those around us. This path draws us closer to God and strengthens our relationships. Moreover, there is a clear promise. Those who choose humility will be honored by God in the right time. Being humble means resting in the assurance that we do not need to promote ourselves, because God, at the proper moment, will lift us up. Seventh teaching: do good to others. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. Matthew 7:12. Before any action, this teaching invites us to ask a simple question: how would I like to be treated? From that reflection, Jesus guides us to act with the same measure of kindness, respect, and fairness. It is not just about avoiding harm, but about actively doing good. This principle requires maturity because we are often tempted to respond in the same way we are treated. However, Jesus calls us to break that cycle and choose a higher path. When we do good, even without expecting anything in return, we reveal a heart aligned with God. This kind of attitude transforms environments, brings people closer, and creates peace. Living this way means choosing every day to act with empathy and intention, treating others with the same value and care we desire for ourselves. Eighth teaching: do not judge. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. Matthew 7:1. This teaching calls us to look less at the faults of others and more at our own hearts. Jesus is not telling us to ignore wrongdoing, but to avoid harsh, premature, and condemning judgments. Many times, we do not know someone's full story, their struggles, or their intentions, and yet we form quick opinions. This kind of attitude creates division and pushes people away. Instead, we are invited to act with mercy, understanding, and grace. When we choose not to judge, we make room for love, forgiveness, and restoration. This teaching also reminds us that we need grace as well, because we all fall short at times. Living this way means choosing humility and treating others with the same patience we hope to receive. It is an invitation to build healthier relationships, grounded in love rather than condemnation. Ninth teaching, have faith. And Jesus said to them, "Because of your little faith. For truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you." Matthew 17:20. Even when everything seems impossible, Jesus teaches that faith can change any situation. He uses the example of the mustard seed to show that it is not the size of faith that matters, but its sincerity. A small but genuine faith is enough to move what seems unshakable. Many times we are limited by what we see or feel, but faith takes us beyond those barriers. It invites us to trust God even when we do not understand every detail. To have faith is to remain steadfast even in the midst of doubt, believing that God is still at work. This teaching encourages us not to give up in the face of difficulties, but to trust that with God the impossible becomes possible. 10th teaching, remain in Jesus. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. John 15:5. This teaching reveals the importance of maintaining a constant connection with Jesus. Just as branches depend on the vine to live and bear fruit, we depend on him to have a true spiritual life. Remaining in Jesus means cultivating a daily relationship through prayer, the Word, and obedience. When we are connected to him, our lives begin to produce fruit such as peace, love, wisdom, and strength. On the other hand, when we drift away, we lose direction and spiritual strength. This teaching reminds us that it is not just about believing, but about remaining. It is in the consistency of this connection that we find sustenance, growth, and purpose. To remain in Jesus is to live connected to the source that strengthens us at all times. As we reflect on these teachings, we realize that Jesus did not come only to teach, he came to transform lives. Every word filled with truth is also an invitation to live differently, think differently, and walk closer with God. Perhaps one of these teachings spoke more deeply to your heart. Do not ignore it. Often, it is God calling us to a new level of faith, surrender, and transformation. Start with small steps. Put into practice what you have learned today. Change does not happen all at once, but it begins with a decision. Thank you for staying until the end of this video. May the peace of God fill your heart, bring rest to your mind, and strengthen your faith each day. If this message spoke to you, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel to keep receiving content that will strengthen your spiritual life. May God bless you and guide you in every step of your journey. See you in the next video.